5 and 1. The top thread tension dial between 1 and 5. Place the button on the fabric and mark the top and bottom to determine the buttonhole length. Place the fabric under the presser foot. Lower the needle into the garment. Sew down the left side, stopping at the bottom mark. Raise the needle. Set the zigzag dial on buttonhole position 2. Sew 5 stitches of bar tack and raise the needle. Repeat on the other side. Remove the fabric from the machine and cut the threads. Cut the opening with a seam cutter and the buttonhole is ready. For sewing a button, push the drop feed lever to the right to lower the feed dog. Set the pattern selector dial at C and stitch width control at 0. Place the button under the foot. Unthread the needle and turn the hand wheel slowly to lower the needle into the left hole on the button. Align the right hole on the button with the slot of the foot and lower the foot to hold the button in place. Raise the needle and adjust the stitch width so that the needle enters into the right hole on the button. Rethread the needle and sew 10 stitches. Raise the needle and set the stitch width control to 0. Then sew a few stitches to lock the seam. Raise the foot and trim the excess thread. See how a neatly stitched button can enhance a simple home accessory like this cushion. To make corded buttonholes, select the pattern BH on the pattern selector. Fix the automatic buttonhole foot and set the thread tension dial between 1 and 5, the stitch length dial between 0.5 and 1, and the stitch width dial to match the thickness of the cord being used. With the buttonhole foot raised, hook the filler cord on the spur at the back of the buttonhole foot. Bring the ends towards you under the buttonhole foot, clearing the front end. Hook the filler cord into the forks of the front of the automatic buttonhole to hold them really tight. Lower the foot and the needle into the garment where the buttonhole will start and lower the foot. Depress the foot control gently and sew the buttonhole. Each side of the buttonhole and the bar tacks will be sewn over the cord. Remove the fabric from the machine and cut the sewing threads only. Pull the left end of the filler cord to tighten it. Thread the end through a darning needle. Draw to the wrong side of the fabric and cut. To stitch a zipper, fix the zipper foot. Set the pattern selector dial at A, the thread tension dial between 3 and 6, the stitch length dial between 1.5 and 4, and the stitch width dial at 5. To sew the left side of the zipper, guide the zipper teeth along the edge of the foot and stitch through the garment and zipper tape. turn the fabric and sew the other side of the zipper in the same way as you did the left side. Now you have a beautiful dress ready for your little daughter. For blind stitch hemming, fix the multi-purpose foot. Set the pattern selector dial at E. You can set it at F2. Set the thread tension dial between 2 and 4. The stitch length dial between 1 and 3 and the stitch width dial at 5. Firstly, fold up the hem and fold it back to form a 0.4 to 0.7 cm allowance. Lower the presser foot and loosen the foot folder screw. To place the hem guide between the screw and the shank of the foot holder. Tighten the screw, making sure that the wall of the hem guide is placed between the toes of the presser foot. Raise the presser foot and place the fabric under the foot so that the folded edge rests against the wall of the hem guide. Lower the foot and stitch slowly for better control so that the needle just pierces the folded edge when it swings to the extreme left side. Now sew carefully, guiding the folded edge along the wall of the hem guide. This is the neatest way to hem, isn't it? Used extensively for doing picot on dupattas. For rolled hem or picot, fix the hemmer foot. Set the pattern selector dial at A. The thread tension dial between 2 and 6. The stitch length dial between 1.5 and 4. And the stitch width dial at 5. Lower the needle into the fabric at the point where the sewing is to begin. Then lower the hemmer foot. Sew 3 or 4 stitches while pulling the needle and bobbin threads. Lower the needle into the fabric and lift the hemmer foot. Insert the folded portion of the fabric into the curl of the hemmer foot. Lower the hemmer foot, then sew by lifting up the edge of the fabric to keep it feeding into the curl smoothly and evenly. For shell tuck, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector dial at G. The thread tension dial between 6 and 8. The stitch length dial between 2 and 3. And the stitch width at 5. Fold the fabric in bias. Place the folded edge along the slot of the foot. The needle should fall off the edge of the fabric on the right, forming tucks. Shell tuck stitch is used to give a decorative look to garments and home linen, like this beautiful napkin. For 2-point shell stitching, fix the zigzag foot. Set pattern selector indicator on window 8. The stitch length between 0.5 and 2. The stitch width between 3 and 6 and the thread tension between 3 and 8. This stitch can also be used as a single overlock stitch as well. See how a simple stitch can change the entire look of your napkin. For stretch stitch pattern, set the pattern selector dial at A to J. Fix the zigzag foot. Set the thread tension dial between 1 and 4, the stitch length dial at SS and the stitch width dial at 5. If the forward and reverse feeds become unbalanced due to the type of fabric, adjust the balance by sliding the stitch length controls. Stretch stitch patterns can be used to enhance the beauty of a simple baby dress. For elastic stretch stitch, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector indicator on window 5 at elastic stretch, the thread tension dial between 3 and 6 and the stitch length control dial at SS. Set the stitch width control dial between 3 and 6. Place the middle of the elastic under the center of the presser foot and stitch into place, making sure the elastic is evenly distributed. Stretch patching is used for patching worn-out parts of a garment or for doing patchwork. For stretch patching, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector indicator on window 7, the stitch length dial on SS, the stitch width dial between 5 and 6, and the tension dial between 2 and 6. And see what we have created with stretch patching, a wonderful bed cover. For smocking, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector dial at D, the thread tension dials between 1 and 4, the stitch length dial on SS and the stitch width dial at 5. First, keep the stitch length at 4. Sew straight stitching lines 1 cm apart across the area to be smocked. Loosen the needle thread tension to make the gathering easier. Knot the threads along one edge. Pull the bobbin threads and distribute the gathers evenly. Secure the threads at the other end and sew the decorative stitch pattern between the gathering stitches. Pull out the gathering stitches. Beautiful smocking with the help of your Usha Janome sewing machine. Wonderful, isn't it? Use this stitch to join heavyweight fabrics. For box stitching, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector dial on H. Thread tension dial between 1 and 4. The stitch length dial between 0.5 and 2 and the stitch width dial at 5. Your machine helps you make innumerable things like this beautiful drape. For applique, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector at C. The thread tension dial between 1 and 4. The stitch length dial between 0.5 and 1. The stitch width dial at 5 and the presser dial at 2. Baste applique faces on the fabric. Stitch around the applique, making sure the needle falls along the outer edge of the applique. When sewing corners, lower the needle down into the fabric. Raise the presser foot and pivot fabric to the right or left. Thanks to your Usha Janome sewing machine, you can now create this wonderful tablecloth with applique work. Satin stitches are used for decorative stitches. They are also especially attractive in applique. For making these beautiful patterns, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector dial between I and J. The thread tension dial between 2 and 5. The stitch width dial between 3 and 5. And the stitch length dial between 0.5 and 1. Be careful to use tear-away stabilizer under the fabric while stitching. Sew a row of stitches and adjust the thread tension so the needle thread appears on the reverse side of the fabric. Now you don't have to go to a store to buy a kurta. You can make it at home. For monogramming, fix the satin stitch foot. Set the pattern selector indicator on window 2, zigzag. Stitch length selector between 0.5 and 1. Stitch width dial between 5 and 6. Top thread tension control between 2 and 6. Back the fabric with paper or interface. Draw the letters on the fabric with a tailor's chalk. Satin stitch, adjusting the stitch width as necessary to form each pattern. If using paper, carefully remove it when you have finished sewing. For zigzag embroidery, you do not need a presser foot. Set the stitch width control between 1 and 6. The stitch length dial can be kept at any point. And pattern selector window on position 2, zigzag. The top thread tension dial between 2 and 6. Drop the feed dog. Draw the design on the fabric and stretch it between hoops to place it under the needle. Lower the presser foot level to engage the top thread tension and run the machine while moving the embroidery hoops. And look at the magic you can create at home with the simple cushion. Rick-rack stitch can be sewn on fabrics in any area that you might use a zigzag stitch. For this stitch, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector on window 2. The thread tension dial between 2 and 6. The stitch length dial at SS and the stitch width dial between 2 and 6. This stitch can be used as a decorative top stitch as well. And look what we've created with Rick Rack Stitch, a child's nightie. Use this stitch when you want a narrow seam that you do not need to press open flat. Fix over edge foot C. Set pattern selector indicator on window 4. Stitch width dial between 5 and 6. Stitch length dial on SS. Top thread tension between 3 and 6. Place the fabric under the presser foot so that the stitches are made over the edge. To stitch a lace to your fabric, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector indicator on window 6. The thread tension dial between 2 and 6 and the stitch length dial on 1. And stitch width dial should be between 2 and 3. And just look at the lace work on this tablecloth. For figotting, fix the multi-purpose zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector indicator on window 7. The top thread tension dial between 3 and 8. Stitch width dial between 5 and 6. And the stitch length dial between 0.5 and 2. Fold under each fabric edge 1.5 cm and press. Attach the two edges to paper or tear away backing 0.2 to 0.3 cm apart. Now sew slowly, guiding the fabric so the needle catches the folded edge on each side. See how fagotting can be used to create a pattern on an ordinary dupatta. For decorative stretch, fix the multi-purpose foot. Set the pattern selector indicator on window 9. The thread tension dial between 2 and 6. And the stitch length dial at SS. Set the stitch width dial between 3 and 6. Decorative stretch patterns add style to your everyday wear. For decorative stitching, fix the satin stitch foot. Set the pattern selector on decorative geometric stitches. The top thread tension between 3 and 8. The stitch length dial between 0.5 and 1. The stitch width dial between 3 and 6. You can sew one row or several of these decorative stitches. You can even vary the stitch width and length for special effects. This bag is quite an innovative creation, isn't it? Twin needle stitching can be used to enhance the looks of a baby blanket. Set pattern selector indicator on Windows 9 to 13. The thread tension dial between 3 and 7 and the stitch length control at SS or between 0.5 and 1. Set the stitch width dial at maximum control for twin needle. You can use either the zigzag foot, satin stitch foot or the twin needle. Turn off the power or unplug the machine. Insert the additional spool pin in the hole. Place the felt and the spool on the additional spool pin. Prepare the top thread for additional spool pin. Slip the thread into the needle bar thread and change the needle to twin needle. Thread needles from front to back. When changing the direction of sewing, turn the hand wheel so that the needles are in the up position. When sewing with twin needle, do not use a stitch width which goes past the twin needle mark. For feather stitches, fix the zigzag foot. Set the pattern selector on B. The thread tension between 1 and 4. Stitch length on SS and the width dial on full. When sewn over a seam, the feather stitch gives fabrics a strong decorative stitch. Another common use for the feather stitch is patchwork quilting. For bar tacking, set the pattern selector indicator on window 2. The top thread tension between 2 and 6 and the stitch length between 0.5 and 1. The stitch width between 2 and 6. Fix the zigzag foot. This stitch is similar to a very short satin stitch and is used to reinforce points of strains such as corners or pockets, and also as a decorative stitch. Herringbone stitch is used as hemming stitch for blankets, tablecloths and draperies. To make this stitch, set pattern selector indicator on window 8 and fix the multi-purpose foot. The thread tension dial between 2 and 6 and the stitch length dial at SS. Set the stitch width dial between 3 and 6. Place the fabric top side up and sew 1 cm from the edge. Trim close to the edges. Your Usha Genome sewing machine is a versatile product that helps you bring out your creativity. But since all good things need good care, let us learn how you can take care of your machine. Firstly, unplug the machine. To dismantle the hook race unit, raise the needle to its highest position and open the hook cover. Open the hinged latch of the bobbin case and take it out of the machine. Open the hook race ring holders, remove the hook race ring and remove the hook. Clean it with a brush or a soft dry cloth. To assemble the hook race unit, hold the hook by the center pin and fit it back carefully into the hook race, forming a perfect circle with the shuttle driver. Attach the hook race ring, making sure that the bottom pin fits into the notch. Lock the hook race ring by turning the holders back into position and insert the bobbin case. Turn off the power to oil the machine. Use 1 or 2 drops of sewing machine oil. Wipe off excess oil because it may stain the fabric. If the machine has not been used for a long time, make sure you oil it before sewing. For oiling behind the face plate, remove the cap, screw and face plate. And then oil the cap, the screw and the faceplate.